From the US military stepping into the belly of the beast to capture the 21st century's most notorious criminal, to the Germans subduing 200 Italian soldiers armed to the teeth without firing a single shot, here are the most daring commando raids in history. Operation Oak. Back in 1943, German paratroopers proved their military excellence by successfully rescuing fascist dictator Benito Mussolini under the custody of the Gran Sasso d'Italia Massif. Imprisoned on top of a mountain in Gran Sasso at the Campo Imperatore ski resort, surrounded by a battalion of troops, escape seemed impossible for Mussolini. However, the Italians failed to factor in the German troops' relentlessness and Hitler's interest in Mussolini. As a fascist dictator, Mussolini was the ace up Hitler's sleeves to keep Italy on Germany's side during the Second World War. And so a group of elite Waffen-SS commandos and paratroopers from the German Fallschirmjäger acted on Hitler's orders to track Mussolini's location and rescue him. On September 12, 1943, German forces flew into enemy territory in 10 DFS-230 gliders. After intercepting Italian intelligence that revealed Mussolini's location, the men were able to safely land on the mountain near the hotel after ground troops had neutralized the enemy forces and cut telephone lines. The German paratroopers then proceeded to neutralize 200 well-equipped Carabinieri guards without exchanging any gunfire by effectively making use of Italian General Fernando Soletti as a hostage. 10 minutes after the raid, Mussolini walked out of the hotel as a free man with German paratroopers. The operation was deemed a success, with only 2 dead. Operation Flipper. During World War II, British forces decided to turn the tide of the battle by making a daring plan to capture Erwin Rommel, the commander of Panzer Group Africa in North Africa, from his headquarters. Following a month of planning, the British forces came up with a flawless plan to achieve the task at hand, which included a submarine and a grueling trek across a desert. However, luck wasn't on their side. On November 10th, the day of the raid, HMS Torbay and HMS Talisman carried 2 groups of 25 men from Alexandria to the beach of Qashm al-Qalb. Unfortunately, the weather separated the troops as the Talisman group failed to make it ashore. Yet, despite their squadron being cut down to 34 from the original 59, the troops continued with the raid, making their way to Rommel's residence. Unfortunately, the British forces ended up caught by the German forces shortly after infiltration. Soon after, the British commando leader was shot and killed on the spot. To add to the troubles of the British soldiers, Rommel had moved his base of operations to Tobruk a few weeks before the raid, and so the raid proved to be a waste of resources. In the end, only one of the SBS operators and 2 of the commandos made it back alive. Although a failure, Operation Flipper was a near-perfect raid, planned to the smallest of details. Operation Ivory Coast. The raid on Son Tay prison camp, otherwise known as Operation Ivory Coast, was the first joint military operation conducted by the United States Special Operations Forces and other military branches. With an impossible objective of bringing home 61 American prisoners of war from the Son Tay prison in Vietnam, the odds seemed to be stacked against the U.S. Armed Forces. However, under the supervision of Air Force Brigadier General Leroy J. Manner and Army Colonel Arthur D. Bull Simons, the military began devising a plan for the operation in early May 1970. A select team of 130 special forces was put together to undergo special training at a secret base in Florida. Once all the pieces were in place, the military made a move on November 20th. An assault force of 6 Jolly Green Giant helicopters, along with a support team of F-105G Wild Weasels, F-4 Phantoms, and A-1 Sky Raiders, took off from U.S. bases in South Vietnam and Thailand. On approaching the target, one of the helicopters deliberately crash-landed in the main courtyard. Soon after, around 50 Green Berets took the prison by storm. However, unbeknown to them, the prisoners had been moved back in July, forcing the men to go home empty-handed. Despite the troops' failure to complete the mission objective, the raid was celebrated as a pivotal success for the U.S. military forces. With only 2 casualties, and 1 aircraft loss. Operation Neptune Spear. On the night of May 1st, 2011, a hand-picked team of about 23 Navy SEALs flew out on their most dangerous mission to date, capturing Osama bin Laden. The same Osama bin Laden who had been a thorn in the US military side, leading them on in a decade-long chase. However, the cat-and-mouse chase came to an end when 2 helicopters transported the team of highly skilled SEALs across 400 miles to Abbottabad, Pakistan. In the dead of night, the SEALs touched down inside bin Laden's compound. Although luck didn't seem to be on their side, when a helicopter had to make an emergency landing, the SEALs ventured forth. In a matter of 38 minutes, the squadron had overtaken the guest house where bin Laden was staying, killing him, his son Khalid, his courier Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, al-Kuwaiti's brother Abra, and his wife. After collecting bin Laden's body and securing the necessary intelligence, the SEALs made their way back to base without sustaining a single casualty, making Operation Neptune a resounding success. TBB Raid. On June 27, 1976, panic spread through the Israeli armed forces as an Air France flight en route to Paris from Tel Aviv was hijacked by 4 terrorists, 2 from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and 2 West German revolutionaries. The plane, carrying 248 passengers, was diverted from its original flight plan to Libya before finally touching down in Uganda, where the hijackers found refuge under Ugandan dictator Idi Amin. Once joined by more terrorists and with the support of the Ugandan army, the hijackers demanded $5 million and the release of 40 militants from the Israeli government in exchange for the lives of 106 hostages. Negotiations between the Israeli government and the terrorists continued for 2 days before the government decided to launch a raid. A team of 100 commandos, led by Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, was flown into Ugandan territory on Israeli transport planes. Displaying impeccable skill, Israeli forces managed to neutralize the terrorists and rescue the hostages, all while fighting off the Ugandan forces in a matter of 90 minutes. The operation was deemed a success, with 1 Israeli commando killed, 5 wounded, and 3 hostages lost. Raid on Ibn Email by German forces. When it comes to modern warfare, the German military is regarded as one of the first to carry out a thoroughly planned raid against the French. During the 20th century, German paratroopers executed a perfect operation with unmatched skill to take out the Belgian fortress of Ibn Email. Owing to the fortress's strategic position, the French had the upper hand, overseeing important bridges over the Albert Canal, which provided a passageway for German forces to advance into enemy territory. And so capturing the fortress became pivotal to tipping the scales. A group of 40 Fallschirmjäger, otherwise known as German paratroopers, were tasked with the seemingly impossible mission. After a year of preparation, the men, led by Captain S.A. Koch, executed the plan to near perfection. They flew in on 9 gliders armed to the teeth and landed on top of the fortress, despite taking heavy damage. In line with the plan, the paratroopers then used explosives and flamethrowers to subdue outer enemy forces, while effectively containing the troops in the lower sections of the fortress. Thanks to the paratroopers, the forces on the ground were able to take control of the 2 key bridges over the canal and advance into Belgium. The Germans had won the battle, all thanks to the paratroopers who captured the fortress. And so, following the successful raid, all 80 soldiers were awarded a Medal of Valor for their efforts. And those were some of the most daring commando raids in history. If you like our content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll see you soon with another video revealing some interesting cases of controversy and mystery.